Last year, the Canadian government gave me a tax audit, and it was a very traumatic experience. But I remember the email they sent me. They said this is not some sort of trial or accusation. It's just a discovery of facts. And I didn't believe them, and I still don't really believe them. But the idea that auditing oneself and taking a look at who you are right now and where you're strong and where you're weak is not something to be afraid of. Not something that we should hesitate to do because we might not like what we find. Just look at it as an honest discovery of facts. And probably the best time to start doing this is when one becomes conscious. I should have done it when I was 16 years old. Actually, I really should have done it when I was 16. But we tend not to, and like so many other things, you can just get away with a lot when you're 16 or 21 because you've got so much runway ahead of you. But after 50, there are about a million reasons why you should take a good, honest look at yourself often and honestly. And I'm one of the reasons is because you have less runway left. But that the imperative to do that actually goes up tenfold when you are divorced or your girlfriend leaves you or something if you're single, because as I like to talk about a lot, the idea of being alone for the rest of your life because you can't figure out how to maximize yourself should be a motivating thought. I think it's amazing, like that other males in my demographic think, oh, now that I don't have a woman in my life, I love my freedom. I think, what is wrong with you? Having a beautiful woman who you love, who you can wrap your arms around all night and wake up with, and she's interested in what you think and what's important to you, what you're going to do that day, how you feel. That's like the most beautiful thing in the world. Like for a guy to say, no, I'm just going to live like a prisoner, in an all men's jail or something. I think they're out of their minds. So if you're on the same page there, if you think I want to maximize myself, everything looks, and I want to maximize my muscles, and I want to maximize my character, and just everything. Conducting a full audit of oneself, I think, is really a good idea. And think, well, what's the problem? Just do it then. Just take a look at who you are and say, am I muscular? Am I fat? Am I muscular? Right? But what I think the problem is are the two malicious stepsisters of false humility and bravado, big unit swinging bravado, right? And for a Western, I live in Korea. I'm a Canadian guy, but I live in Korea, and definitely for Westerners, actually not Canadians, Americans are more this way. But anyway, the big swinging unit problem is definitely more prevalent in Western countries where men tell stories, we tell stories about ourselves, and we're always the hero of those stories, and I did this and I did that, And okay, it's a mask. You might think, well, that's a mask that people are wearing outside, but when they come back inside and they think about themselves, they take that mask off. And I'm not 100% sure that's true. Like, I think if you wear that mask frequently enough, it actually might be very hard to take off when you are alone in the dark and you're thinking about yourself. Right? And the flip side of that is what I see in Korea, and that is pervasive false humility. Right? I mean, there are a lot of Koreans who are just really smart, really well educated, and they've done a great job of learning English. And if I say, okay, your English is great, right? It is very uncommon to encounter a Korean who says, thanks very much. I've worked really hard at it, and I'm glad you think so, right? It's always, oh, no, your Korean is much better than mine, or something, my English, right? Which is usually not true. And since I don't really suffer from that, I don't really know how hard that mask is to take off at night, but I would imagine it's the same thing, right? That if you adopt this habit long enough and with enough sincerity to convince other people, that eventually it becomes part of you, right? And when you have to really think about yourself, and think, can I do this? Can I not do this? What kind of fortitude do I have? What kind of intellectual capacity do I have? It actually might become very difficult because of this fakeness on both sides, humility and pomposity. So I don't know if this is always true for false humility or not, but I know I've done it. When I'm guilty of it, I know exactly what I'm doing. And that is, I'm employing a kind of scorched earth policy. You know, the idea is that I'm going to say the worst possible things about myself, about being, you know, weak and frail and old and not self-disciplined, so that all those things have already been said when somebody else wants to say them about me, right? And you might think, well, what's the harm of that? You know, we're ego-driven creatures, and trying to figure out how to protect our egos from outside invaders makes a lot of sense, right? And yeah, okay, that's our instinct, right? But there are a couple of good reasons to fight against that instinct, right? To say, I'm not going to scorch the earth. I'm going to appraise myself and speak about myself if somebody asks me, you know, as honestly as humanly possible, right? And just leave yourself open. I'm going to say to myself, I want to leave myself completely open for criticism, right? Or insults, right? For two good reasons. One is that I just want to grow a thicker skin, right? I mean, there's no way to grow a thicker skin if you don't just say, okay, just fucking insult me then. You tell me what a wimp I am, right? And just learn to just let it roll off you, right? You know, I'm doing YouTube. Thank you, my 3 viewers, you know. But hopefully someday I'll have 23 viewers, and of those 23 viewers, 3 are probably going to say, you know, you suck. You suck. You're the most boring videos I've ever seen in my life. And you don't know what you're talking about. And well, first, there's probably a lot of truth to that I don't know what I'm talking about half the time. And second, I just want to become completely fine with that, right? That I heard this quote once from some Indian guy saying, you know, I don't complain when people say overly kind things about me, so why should I complain when people say unkind things about me? And that should be true, but it's very hard to actually live that way. So I want to become, I don't want to try to defend myself against the things people say, because I want to be able to handle that. But there's something more actually important about not employing false humility as a defense mechanism, and that is that sometimes people are not being ill-willed, right? Sometimes they're actually trying to help you, right? And if you just shut them down before they start talking, right? Before they say anything, if you just say, well, I've already said all that, and you know, I know I suck, right? Then you're robbing yourself of the chance to get, you know, some honest feedback, right? Even if 90% of malicious things that people say are motivated by just pure malice, right? They just want to fuck you up, right? That it's worth it to get the 10% of feedback from people or observations from people that actually could improve you, right? So I think that false humility is shooting yourself in the foot, right? And to the extent I've done it, I want to make sure I don't do it anymore. For every one time in my life I've been guilty of using false humility as a defense mechanism, I have been guilty 20 more times for exaggerating and being a blowhard, right? You know what the amazing thing is too, when I see it in other males, and I see it all the time, when I see it in other males, I think, oh, this is so transparent. This is so transparent. And it looks so bad, right? And for 3 seconds, I think I gotta remember never to do this, right? And then 5 hours later, I find myself, puffing my chest out and telling these tall tales about myself. And even as I'm doing it, I think, stop doing this, right? But the instinct is just so strong to just paint these beautiful portraits of oneself. And okay, I mean, the evolutionary mechanism there must be that we have to impress women and we have to scare our male competitors. So we just say, well, I went out and I slayed 3 woolly mammoths today, and I collected quite a lot of food. If you'd like to share it with me, and that is okay. That's where it came from. But there's this great book by Matt Ridley called The Red Queen. The Red Queen, and the whole idea of the book was, so men start doing this. We start bluffing essentially. Instead of being awesome, we start saying we're awesome, and then women catch on to it, right? And they realize, okay, this guy's just a blowhard. It would be better if he just shut up, because he is demonstrating that he doesn't have strength, but he's pretending to have some sort of strength, right? So I'm less likely to mate with this guy, right? So that is an idea I'm going to try to keep in my mind, like just for purely practical purposes. I'm just going to try not to talk about things that I've done that are awesome, unless they're demonstrably true. I mean, if I have benched 300, right? So I benched 300 pounds, and it's true. I benched 300 pounds, right? But no more. I don't think it was a clean rep either. I don't think I touched my chest, right? So I'm going to take these. I'm going to try to pretend that these two things are guardrails on this, false humility and bravado, right? These are guardrails that I should be very, very careful not to even get close to, right? As I navigate my way through the world, and I think about who I am and where I have to improve, right? Because that really is the objective. I mean, if all of us can just improve, right? If we just take wherever starting point we're at and just get better, right? We are going to have much, much better lives.